So Emperor Norton's Stationary Marching Band is obviously somewhat tongue-in-cheek, and we like the paradox of being a stationary marching band. Emperor Norton we took on as our patron saint, just because he's a pretty zany historical figure, declared himself Emperor of the United States and Protector of Mexico, and we just really liked that spirit of claiming your own destiny for yourself. If you believe it, if you sell it, and you commit to it, then whatever, you can do and say kind of whatever you want, and that's kind of the spirit that fuels our band. We just sort of get out there and do it, and don't take no for an answer.
Personally, I'm motivated to play in this band because my violinist life has led me down a lot of different paths, and I've spent a lot of time in orchestras and a lot of time with bands. And I love orchestra playing, where you really have to stare at the sheet music and figure things out, and you really have to work with yourself and figure out exactly how something needs to be done. But then with bands, I love just freaking out and running around like a lunatic and, getting to scream at the sky and play music. And this band perfectly combines that for me. It's kind of a best of both worlds situation.
Well, HONK is a lot of things to me. I love HONK, live and breathe HONK. It is I've never been the same after seeing HONK. The first HONK I saw, I was like, yes, this is how it's supposed to be.
HONK is about so many things. For me, it's a lot about a different way of learning and making music that's very playful and exploratory and good for people who have different learning methods, and it's about taking that music and making a difference with it, which means something different to every band. For some bands it means just making a party where people feel good. For other bands it might mean supporting a cause that they feel strongly in.
I feel like HONK is about a lot of different things. It's kind of about an idea. It's about getting people out onto the street to create music and create art together. And to do it in a way that, nowadays music is so electronic that everything that you hear on TV, everything you hear on the radio has been altered in some way. So it's a really beautiful thing when you can just walk onto the street and hear music, just music. No twiddling levers and knobs and nothing, it's just music, and it brings people together in this beautiful way.
We're so used to the sort of the commodification of music and it being a passive thing that we listen to. And there's this strong dichotomy between performer and audience. And HONK is all about throwing that out the window. HONK is just an experience that everybody has, and you might be playing an instrument or you might be dancing your ass off. It doesn't matter, everybody's a part of the experience.
And when do we honk? Why do we honk? And how do we honk? When do we honk?
What's important about this kind of music is that it can be played on the streets, and so there's no boundaries between the people listening, the people playing. There's no stage, there's no segregation. It's really inclusive and mobile, and it's very DIY and encourages people and sort of shows people that they can do this too.
The entire thing is entirely volunteer driven. In fact, I'm going to be having a pile of musicians sleeping in my house to, make sure that this can happen. And it's going to be a blast.
It takes a band willing to take on the huge organizational effort that's required. I mean, on one hand, it's easy. you pick a date, you say, hey, honk bands, come to our city on this date, and people will show up. How well you want to take care of them sort of then becomes the giant organizational effort. And I mean, thankfully, every honk we've been to has just been an amazing experience. Like, people just pour their hearts into really making it a great event for the musicians that are traveling. They started one in Seattle. I believe this year was their 5th year in Seattle. And last year they started one in Austin, Texas. And this year was their 2nd. There's been talk of starting one in the Midwest, Chicago, or maybe Minneapolis or Madison. We did not make the first Seattle one, but we've been to every other honk. And at this point, not many other bands can say that. We've done a lot more honks than most of the other honk bands at this point.
Honk movement is really, it's like the main cause that I dedicate my time to, because there's a lot wrong with the world, but when people get together and play music, something really magical happens, and it sort of organizes and motivates even all the people around the music. So I think it's a really great way to bring people together and inspire people.
To me, where it all comes from is that in-your-face sort of visceral feeling. That you just can't deny a band that is having a good time and playing wonderful music, and to add that spirit to any movement or any sort of cause is really, really powerful, because like that just hits people right in their hearts, or like it really physically, even if they're not open to it in that way, like just physically being in front of a loud band, you can't deny it. And it's a really good way to grab people and shake them up and get them to pay attention. And it's really powerful, and it's really fun. I mean, it's really all about joy and taking over public spaces and being in them in this really just exuberant way that embraces community in a very organic way. It's just people out having a good time. And we can rally around different causes, but really at the heart of it, it's about that.